is something that we all covet. It's something that we all think to be important. If I'm just driving and somebody's looking inside my car, automatically I feel very uncomfortable. If I'm speaking to somebody and someone else passes by and they begin to eavesdrop, I feel very uncomfortable. The hadith that we're covering today is something that unfortunately is a human problem, but it's much more pronounced and worse in certain parts of the Muslim community. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Man istama'a ila hadithi qawmin wa hum lahu karihun subba fi udhunihi al-anuk." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, whoever eavesdrops and listens to someone else's conversations, وَهُمْ لَهُ كَارِهُونَ, and they don't want people to know or listen to that conversation, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to pour melting copper in their ears. A punishment for someone who wants to involve themselves in things that do not concern them. This is just an unfortunate plague of our community. We'll be walking in the parking lot of the masjid, somebody's sitting there in his car with his family, and I'm just like looking inside. Oh, mashallah, I didn't know he had 2 kids. Oh, nice. Oh, he went to Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, nice, mashallah. Like, there's these very weird practices and habits that get very uncomfortable. I remember once, subhanallah, in some communities worse than others, I'm parked on the side, and a few Muslim brothers, me, my wife, and my 2 kids, back of the car. A few, like 2, 3 Muslim friends are just walking down, and they're looking inside of my car, and I'm looking at them, and they don't break eye contact. They're looking at me and they're still walking, and I said, at some point, if you have eye contact, you feel a little ashamed and you stop looking. They kept looking inside, and obviously my wife, she does niqab, so it got really uncomfortable, so she had to quickly put on her niqab because somebody's looking inside. So we have to be very mindful of people's privacies. Now, some people can say, wait, if you're so mindful of your privacy, why don't you put curtains on your windows? Why do you have your garage open? That's fine. That's a legitimate concern, that if I'm driving by and somebody's garage door is open and their front door is open and there's like everything exposed, there is some responsibility on the person themselves. That's their responsibility. But me as a person, I should not indulge. I should not delve into things that do not concern me. So this hadith says, مَنِ اسْتَمَعَ إِلَى حَدِيثِ قَوْمٍ وَهُمْ لَهُ كَارِهُونَ. The word istama'a is different from sami'a. Sami'a means if for whatever reason I hear just on the side. Like I'm just walking by and I hear a few words, that's fine. Istama'a means I'm listening and I'm just, trying to pay attention. And then I want to become part of the conversation. Like 2 people are having a private conversation, I just join inside and I wanted to become part of a conversation. SubhanAllah, we were we went to the grave of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. In Turkey, we went to the grave of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, radiallahu anhu, with some of the students. And we're there by the grave, a few students were sitting down. I'm just talking to them. And this chacha, uncle, I don't know, he just walks inside, he sits in the conversation, he puts his hand around me, he just starts listening as well. And I'm thinking to myself, subhanAllah, it's a public space, but you just inserted yourself inside of the conversation. It's like the equivalent of I'm driving, I stop at a red light, somebody comes inside, opens the door, he's like, yeah, can you just drop me off in the Walmart over here? Nobody invited you, why did you bring yourself into the conversation? Rasulullah ﷺ says, مَنِ اسْتَمَعَ إِلَى حَدِيثِ قَوْمٍ. If you're listening attentively to something that people do not want to be heard. Here's another problem in our communities. We have this really bad habit of recording people. I have a conversation with somebody, and that person doesn't know, but the phone conversation is being recorded. I'm talking to this person, but everything is being recorded, and now I'm going to spread it. Oh, you know what this person said? Oh, you know what that person said? Oh, look, I have... This type of very nosy behavior is unbecoming of the Muslim community. Imagine, you and I, we all have our private lives. If somebody was to look into my private life, how uncomfortable and bad I would feel. Yes, there's a difference. On the other end, Rasulullah ﷺ says, a person should not be openly doing sin. If, let's say, for instance, I'm doing haram, I'm taking a picture and I'm putting on social media, that's a different issue. That's a problem. Somebody who's airing out their dirty laundry and showing everybody the wrong that they're doing, that's a problem. But some people, they have weaknesses, they have wrong, and they want to keep it to themselves, but people are taking pictures, people are recording, and then they're sharing it around. No, it's people's private lives, and let's be very mindful of this. So, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Man istama'a ila hadithi qawmin." Whoever actively listens to another person's conversation, but they don't want to be heard. They don't want to be heard, then it's not something Islamic. And whatever a person does, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what that person's, personality type is. It doesn't matter. If that person has his garage open, that person has his door open, or let's say, for instance, I'm talking to someone and they start talking and they're like, oh, yesterday I was talking to this person and no, stop the conversation. I don't want to be involved in another person's ghibah. This is one of the worst qualities in our community, that not only do we want to be nosy, we start to get a little, we start to make comments and criticisms, and it's very unbecoming. Allah protect us. SubhanAllah, it's something that, and especially nowadays, because it's so easy to know about people's lives going online, WhatsApp groups, social media groups, YouTube. You can search people's lives. It becomes all the more important for us not to be very nosy. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Min husni islamil mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'ni." One of the beautiful qualities of a Muslim is if something does not involve me, I keep myself away. I'll keep myself away. Somebody wants to bring news to me. Somebody wants to do, gubshap and wants to start a conversation. It happens all the time. We're sitting for lunch. We're sitting for dinner. We're sitting for chai. We have nothing better to talk about. Now one thing leads to another, and you're like, oh, did you hear this happen? Oh, did you hear that happen? Oh, what's happening in the masjid? Or listen. You want to use tact and to steer the conversation in another direction, but do not engage in this sort of conversation. Because on the Day of Judgment, you cannot say that, Ya Allah, oh, he was doing ghibah and I was just sitting over there. It's very similar to if I'm driving and my friend tells me, oh, I need to get to the venue very quickly. I want you to be quick. And I'm putting my foot on the pedal and I go past the speed limit. And then the cop stops me and he says, here's a ticket, $200 for going over the speed limit. And I say, no, give it to my friend. He's the one who told me. The cop is not going to say, you're the one who went fast. If I'm engaging in ghibah, even though I'm part of the conversation, let me stand up and walk away. They say the flesh of your brother is very sweet, but it's very poisonous. Sweet, but poisonous. So this is a very important hadith that teaches us, be mindful of other people's privacy, be mindful of other people's rights. Don't ask too many questions about other people. If you want to be nosy in the good way. What does that mean? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was in the masjid and he would see somebody is missing, he would ask, oh, this person is missing for a few days. Let me send a hadiyah to this person. Or this person has been out of town for some time. Let me go and ask, can I do something? Can I help you out? That is when we're supposed to ask around. Not that, I haven't seen this person in the masjid. Or what has this person been doing? Or look what's inside of his car. Oh, look what car he's... These conversations do not concern me. Let me worry about my own problems in my own life. So, two very important hadith. The first one, مَنِ اسْتَمَعَ إِلَى حَدِيثِ قَوْمٍ. When I'm actively paying attention to other people's conversations, this is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says on the Day of Judgment you'll be sinful for. And this is broader. This is not just listening to conversations. This is, reading people's messages. This happens a lot where you want to read other people's messages. You're snooping into people. SubhanAllah, the other day, I was doing some work on my laptop. I was at a coffee shop doing my work in a laptop, and somebody I know from the community, he recognizes me, and there's anywhere you could sit, but he purposely sits right behind me. And he's just looking in my laptop. I was doing nothing. I was just writing an article about hadith. But I was just thinking to myself, it's so uncomfortable that as I'm typing and writing away, somebody is literally facing my laptop trying to see what I'm doing. So let's be very mindful of people's privacies. If in the masjid somebody has their phone, ideally I shouldn't have my phone. In the masjid, I shouldn't have my phone. But if somebody's reading through their email, I'm not just gonna be like looking through the corner of my eyes and reading the email with him and I say, hey, by the way, you haven't responded to that guy in 3 days, quickly respond to the email. Like, I shouldn't engage, like, yes, nobody should have their phone. Like I said, everybody has their own responsibility. The person who's on their phone, the person who's on their WhatsApp, that's his problem. But for me to look at the message and starting to follow along, that's my problem. I want everybody to be clear. Just because the person is on their phone, I can't say, oh, why did you bring your phone? That's between him and Allah. But me reading that person's phone, looking at his messages, wondering what's going on, why is he not replying, what's happening, that's my problem. And I should not be nosy, I should not be snooping in other people's information. And that brings us to the last hadith, very beautiful hadith. مِنْ حُسْنِ إِسْلَامِ الْمَرْءِ تَرْكُهُ مَا لَا يَعْنِيهِ. The beauty of Islam is that I don't probe into other people's lives. Why is it? These big companies like Facebook and Twitter and like social media, what is one of the biggest outrages against them? Privacy breach, data breach. They literally make money, they make billions of dollars by stealing mine and your information and then selling it to the highest bidder. You ever wondered why when you're on Facebook and you're scrolling down, there's a very curated ad just for you? Sometimes you're on your phone. Literally, this happened. One day, I was just talking to my wife and I was saying, you know what? We saw a cockroach, we saw a roach, and we're thinking like, we need to get a spray. I'm not even joking, true story, we need to get a spray. I open Google to search something up. The first image that comes is Raid. Raid, that spray? The first image, I said, I think even before the angels wrote down that I said that, somehow Google heard it and he's put it on my phone already. It's this weird world where everybody's like trying to steal your privacy, trying to steal your data, and that's becoming the biggest breach. If you look at Facebook, $1 million lawsuits, millions of dollars of lawsuits of them stealing people's data and then selling it to people. Now, Islam has taught us this from much before. Don't involve yourselves in other people's businesses unless there's a genuine need. You have nusah, good intention, that where's my brother? He's sick. Let me help. Okay, ask that. But if you want to just probe into their lives, I have already enough problems in my life that I need to sort out before I need to sort out somebody else's problems. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. And may Allah allow us to look at our own shortcomings and rectify them before we concern ourselves with the lives of other people. آمين يا رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.